More examples in this section, and then we'll answer some questions from the homework. So D says the slope is -4/5 through the point -5, 2. So we learned that point slope form yesterday. So the point slope form, it kind of looks like the slope formula, just with the x minus x1 multiplied over. So do you guys remember how the slope formula was m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1? So these are almost identical formulas, do you see? It's just like the denominator has been multiplied over with the m. Okay, that's where that's coming from. All right, so we have the point slope formula, which you guys should definitely use. And we have y minus 2 equals m, which is -4/5 times x minus a -5, so x plus 5. And so in a lot of classes, they'll let you leave it in point slope form. So with my AP Calc class, they definitely leave it in this form because that's what they want on the test. Okay, so that's kind of the convenience of knowing this form, especially if you have a really weird slope, like a fraction for the slope and a fraction for the points. It makes it much easier. But I do say on your homework to simplify down to y equals mx plus b. So we're going to distribute in. So I have -4/5 x. And then I have -4/5 times 5, so the 5's will cancel. So -20 over 5 is -4. And then if I add the 2 over, I get y equals -4/5 x minus 2. Okay, so for that one, the fractions were not terrible because the 5's ended up canceling anyway. But sometimes the fractions can be pretty gross. All right. So it says, in the game of Monopoly, if a player lands on a property that someone else owns, they must pay rent. So the rent can be modeled by a linear function of the selling price. So you guys know that. So in Monopoly, there's a relationship between like your rent and the property value. You probably have realized this in Monopoly. Like the more expensive ones cost more expensive. They're more expensive for the rent. So there's a line that can represent that. So for part A, it says express the rent as a function of the selling price. So when you say rent as a function of the selling price, we'll often say y as a function of x. So we're going to make our selling price x and our rent y. Okay, and I have that in the table so you can see it. So basically we just need to pick any 2 points. So I would probably pick the points that are the smallest. So let's pick the point 60, comma 2, but yeah, that's right, 60, comma 2, and then 100, comma 6. Okay, so let's pick those 2 points. And then we just come up with an equation of a line. Okay, so we're going to do our m is y2 minus y1, so 6 minus 2 over 100 minus 60. I think I taught you guys the shortcut yesterday too, right? Like if you take your y's and you say, how much do I go up by? I go up by 4. And then you say, well, how much for the x's do I go up by? I go up by 40. See how this is 4 over 40, which is 1 over 10. So you can kind of reduce that fraction. So 4 over 40 is 1 over 10. And then we're going to use either point, doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to use the 60, comma 2. So I'm going to have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So the more times you write that formula, the easier it is to memorize, right? So I have 1/10 of x minus 60, and then on the left-hand side I have y minus 2. So we get 1/10 x minus 6, right? 1/10 of 60. And then I'm going to add the 2 over, so your final answer is y equals 1/10 x minus 4. So if we had a certain property, and let's say Indiana was, I don't know, do you guys know how much Indiana costs? I have no idea. No, Indiana in the Monopoly game. 220, we think. Then we could plug in 220 times 1 over 10, and then subtract 4, and we'd find the rent. Does that make sense? All right, so it says how much is the rent for Illinois Avenue with a selling price of $240. So same idea. So I'm going to do 1/10 of the selling price minus 4, because remember the selling price was what our x was. So we plug in 240 for x. So we get y equals 24 minus 4, so y equals 20. So if you land on Illinois Avenue, you would pay $20. Because the minus 4 in the equation. It was our b value down here. Did you not have minus 4? Okay. All right, make sense? All right, obviously we can use lines for more things than Monopoly. Lines are very useful in real life. All right, so it says, remember parallel lines have the same slope and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So therefore, if you find the slope of one line, you can use it to find equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So here's some more practice on that. So number 1 says, write an equation for the line that passes through 3, -1 and is perpendicular to this equation. So for perpendicular, then we want to know what our new slope is. Okay, so the original slope is -5, so the perpendicular slope is going to be what? Yeah, 1/5. You got to flip it and make it the opposite sign, so 1/5. And then we're passing through the point 3, 2. So let's go ahead and do the point slope form again. So I'm plugging in 1/5 for my slope, and I'm plugging in 3 and -2 for my x2, y2, or sorry, x1, y1. So I have y minus a -2, so +2. All right, so I'm going to multiply the 1/5 in, so I have 1/5 x minus 3/5. So now I have fractions, which is totally fine. We're going to get over your fraction phobia in Algebra 2. I know some of you guys, like, your heart flutters a little bit. Oh my God, I have fractions. Handle it. So we're going to subtract the 2 over. So I get 1/5 x minus 3/5. But when I subtract 2, I'm going to subtract 10 over 5, right? I get common denominators. So I multiply by 5 over 5, right? So on the end, I have minus 13 over 5. And that's our answer. All right, so sometimes it's not set up exactly so you can see the slope, like the next one says write the equation for the line that passes through -4, 8, and is parallel to this equation. Okay, so at first glance, it looks like your slope is 1, but it's not 1, right? Because we haven't solved for y. Okay, so we're going to divide everything by 2. So we get y equals 1/2 x plus 5. And the only thing we're using from this line is the slope. You can kind of even just cross everything else out. We don't worry about it at all. So we said parallel. So if it says parallel, then we use the same slope. So our slope is going to be 1/2. And then we go through the point -4, 8. So we're going to have y minus 8 equals m, which is 1/2, times x minus a -4, so x plus 4, like that. And then we just simplify it all out. So we distribute our 1/2 in, we get 1/2 x plus 2. And then we add the 8 over. So we get y equals 1/2 x plus 10. Easy enough? Really not that bad. That was the x-intercept, y-intercept method. That was for graphing lines. Yeah. Did you like that one? Yeah. Yeah, basically if you had like an equation like 3x minus 6y equals 12, you don't have to solve for y or x. So you don't have to get it in the term y equals mx plus b, I guess I should say. So basically you cover up. If you cover up the x, you get y equals -2. So that's going to represent the point 0, -2. And then if you cover up the y, you would have 3x equals 12. So you get x equals 4, so you have 4, 0. And then you graph those 2 points and then draw the line between them. So that was the thing from yesterday. Alrighty. A couple more. All right, so number 3. So write an equation for the line that passes through -1, 7 is perpendicular to 2x minus 3y equals 6. So we're going to solve for y so that we can find what the slope is. So I'm going to subtract the 2x over, and then I'm going to divide by -3 everywhere. So I get y equals 2/3 x minus 2. Okay. So this time we're saying perpendicular. So the slope of 2 over 3 is not the same slope that we're going to use, right? So what will we use instead? Yeah, -3 over 2. So this is going to be a fraction one. All right, so I'm going to have y minus 7 equals -3 over 2, x minus a -1, so x plus 1. Okay. We're going to distribute the -3 over 2. So I have -3 over 2x minus 3 over 2. And then I'm adding 7 to the right-hand side. So when you add 7, you're really adding what fraction? 7 over 1, but if you change it, right, 14 over 2, we want to get common denominators. So if I have negative 3 over 2 and I add 14 over 2, then I'm getting 11 over 2. So I'm going to have y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 11 over 2, and that's our answer. Okay. The next ones are the ones that hopefully, after yesterday, you guys know right away. So look at it. So it says, what's the equation of the line perpendicular to x equals 3? So if you're perpendicular to an x equals, it's a y equals equation. So what y value do we need? 8, because see, the 8 is right there. All right, and the next one says parallel to x equals 3. So that means you're also going to have an x equals. Yep, and that's the x value of negative 2. Okay. Do you guys like those ones? Easy points in the test, right? All right, and I think we have one more after this. All right, so number 5, so find the equation of the line perpendicular to the line through negative 2, 3 and 4, negative 7 with the same y-intercept. Okay, so this is kind of a critical thinking question. There's a lot of steps here. It's not very straightforward, right? So it says we're going to find the equation of the line that's perpendicular to this line. Okay, so first we have to find that first line. Okay, so the first line. So it has a slope of negative 7 minus 3 over 4 minus a negative 2, which is negative 10 over 8, not 8, 6, which is negative 5 over 3. All right, so we need to figure out what this equation of the line is. So we know that we're going to be perpendicular to it, so our new slope is going to be 3/5. But we also want to have the same y-intercept. So we actually have to find this entire first equation of the line. So we do y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And you can plug in either original point. So I'm going to plug in the negative 2, 3. So I'm going to have x minus a negative 2, so plus 2. And I have y minus 3 like that. And I need to find its y-intercept. So I'm going to multiply it out. So I have negative 5 over 3x minus 10 over 3. And then I'm going to add 3 to the right-hand side. Well, when I'm adding the 3 over, what I'm adding is 9 over 3, right? Do you guys see that? Common denominators. So we get y equals negative 5/3 x minus 1/3. So its y-intercept is negative 1/3. So we're going to use the same y-intercept, but now we're going to take the opposite reciprocal slope. So our perpendicular slope is going to be positive 3/5. So we don't have to go all the way through with the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 because we have the m and we have the b, right? So this is our m and this is our b. So we have y equals 3/5 x minus 1/3 is the answer. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so that's kind of a multi-step one.